Hello, and welcome to Chris's fictional podcast. So, today we're going to be talking about unicorns to make a podcast series called Mythical Mounts, which the dragon will be included with. Now, first, we're going to start off with what is a unicorn? A unicorn is a legendary creature that looks like a horse, but it has a horn that's usually spiral growing out of its forehead. The most popular image of a unicorn is that of a white horse that has a horn. In medieval lore, the spiraled horn of unicorns were called the alicorn, which was thought to neutralize poisons. In popular mythology, unicorns were hunted for their horns, which were said to protect one against diseases, or it would protect them on any poison that might have been added to one's drink if it were made into a cup. This belief was derived from reports on the unicorn in India, where it was used by the rulers that place for antitoxin purposes to avoid assassination. People sold what they purported to be unicorn horns at the time, but were actually selling narwhal horns. And in case of you who don't know what a narwhal is a whale with a large horn-like tusk that swims in water. Traditionally, the unicorn had a billy-beared goat, a lion's tail, and cloven hooves. Ironically, this perception was more realistic, as only cloven-hooved animals have horns. But originally, unicorns were thought as nasty, easily provoked creatures, unlike the gentle perception we have them today. They were thought to have deep, bellowing voices. As an ancient Greek physician once said, the unicorn was native to India, the size of a donkey with a burgundy head and white body. It had blue eyes, a single horn that was bright red at the top, black in the middle, and white at the bottom. The horn was also 18 inches long. Julius Caesar also described the unicorn, saying it had a deer's head, elephant's feet, a 3-foot-long horn, and a boar's tail. It was not until the Middle Ages that a unicorn began to take on its present form that we see today. A widespread legend is that when Noah gathered 2 of every kind of animal, he neglected to gather unicorns, which is why they do not exist today. The quillin, a creature in Chinese mythology, is sometimes called the Chinese unicorn, but it's not directly related to Western unicorn. The quillin has the body of a deer, the head of a lion, green scales, and a long, froth-covered horn. In Japanese, the word kirin, written in the same Chinese ideograms, is used to designate both the giraffe and the mythical creature. Though the Japanese kirin is based on Chinese mythology, it is more closely related to the Western unicorn than it does the Chinese quillin. Now, unicorns in prehistory. A prehistoric cave painting in France depicts an animal with 2 straight horns emerging from its forehead. Anyone with an online art degree would automatically think that it wasn't a unicorn, but the drawing's simple perspective makes the 2 horns appear to be a straight horn. Because the species of figure is unknown, some people call it the unicorn. One guy named Richard Leakey suggests that, like the sorcerer found at Troyes Furus, is a Threnotherpe, a blend of animal and human, and that the head is that of a bearded man. Sorry if I mispronounce some of these names. I am looking the sources up on the internet and they don't describe how to say the name, so you're going to have some mispronounced names. I apologize. There have been unconfirmed reports of aboriginal unicorn in southern Africa. Now, the reason we're talking about unicorns in prehistory and stuff is, like the dragons, they have a possibility of existing. And I'm not going to go into the whole physiology or the biological stuff that I did with the dragons, mostly because the unicorns would act similar to the horse, where they would, they're pretty much horses with the horns and possibly magic abilities, but we do not know the magic abilities for sure. I'm pretty sure that was just added on because, well, I mean, come on, magic doesn't really exist. People just see something that looks new and weird, strange to them, and they're going to add different things to them. Anyway, back to the actual topic. We're moving on to unicorns in ancient history next. In the West, there's an animal that is mentioned several places in the Bible, and is often used as a metaphor representing strength. In the King William's version, the word is translated into unicorn. So that means unicorn is in the Bible. Now, of course, this is probably just because of translation, but this could also mean the possibility of a unicorn existing and people having interactions with unicorns. In fact, there's a place which we'll get later on in the podcast that it's named after a possibility of a real unicorn sighting. Now, ancient Greek writers were convinced of the reality of the unicorn. Imagine them today conference calling about unicorn myths. The earliest description described them as wild asses, which means donkey, not the curse word, but donkey, fleet of foot, having on the forehead a horn, and about a cubit, which is a Greek form of measurement, and a half in length, colored white, red, and black. And in case of you guys were wondering what a cubit is, a cubit is typically about 18 inches or 44 centimeters, though there was a long cubit of about 21 inches and 52 centimeters. So if we were to convert this with the normal cubit, not a long cubit, then that was to say the unicorn's horn was about 27 inches long, or 66 centimeters long. So that just gives you a rough idea of how long the unicorn's horn was. Now, the Greek man known as Aristotle also mentioned two one-horned animals, the oryx, a kind of antelope, and the so-called Indian donkey. In Roman times, Pliny the Elder's Natural History, which is a book by Pliny the Elder, mentions the oryx as an Indian ox, which may have referred to rhinoceros as one-horned beasts. He called the Indian donkey a very ferocious beast, similar in the rest of its body to a horse, with the head of a deer, the feet of an elephant, the tail of a boar, a deep bellowing voice, and a single black horn, 2 cubits long in length, sitting on the middle of this forehead. Now you may think that last phrase is familiar, probably because it is. I have mentioned something like that earlier in the podcast. And for the 2 cubits in length, that would be 36 inches long, or 88 centimeters, in case any of you were wondering. Now, Pliny added to that, it cannot be taken alive. It has also been said that Indian produces a one-horned horse, and said that the Monoceros, sometimes called the Carcasonon, which may be the form of the Arabic word of rhinoceros, but we're not going to get into that because my knowledge of the Arabic language and all that stuff is very limited, probably because I just learned the word right now, and it's pronounced Carcadon, or at least that's what it looks like, Carcadn. But that also might be a misspelling on the website I'm looking at. We're English people, don't expect us to know a different language unless we study them. I know for sure I didn't study them. Maybe this person did, but anyhow, in the East, the Indus Valley civilization, who inhabited what is now known as Pakistan, had some carved seals which represented a bull and may have been depicting bulls in the profile. This has been interpreted some as the symbol of the unicorn, which may have symbolized a powerful group, but this is speculation. In ancient China, there's a miraculous creature called the Kilin, which we have mentioned earlier, that radiated exquisite colors, had a voice like the tinkling of bells, and lived for 1,000 years. Although the Kilin was like a dragon, it had fish scales which shimmered in every color of the rainbow. It had a mane and cloven hooves as well. Now, this may just be a type of dragon, or it may be like a sea unicorn. We're not sure. But either way, I think it exists, because if it was a type of dragon, we already know about my opinion on dragons, and if it's a type of unicorn, that could exist too. Maybe it was just a unicorn that not a unicorn, but a horse that had like a stick on it and maybe looked like it had scales. But you know what? It could have existed. You don't know. The killing was first observed in 2697 BC as it wandered through the palace of the Emperor Huangti. This was seen as an omen, as an announcement of lucky years. It is said that in the following years, Huangti invented musical instruments, taught his people how to build houses with bricks, and united the Chinese tribes. Legend has it that Killen appeared once again to the emperor at the end of his life to carry him to the land of the dead on its back. Now that sounds pretty cool, but that also sounds a little creepy. I mean, think about that. A weird fish-like horse thing with a horn coming to bring you to the afterlife on its back. Yeah, I'm not sure how I would feel about that. Now, unicorns in the Middle Ages. Medieval knowledge of unicorns stemmed from biblical and ancient sources. The creature is variously represented as a kind of a wild donkey, goat, or horse. By 200 AD, a man had called the unicorn a small, fierce, kid-like animal, a symbol of Christ. Ambrose, Jerome, and Basil agreed. A predecessor to the medieval bestiary popularized an elaborate allegory in which the unicorn, trapped by a maiden representing the Virgin Mary, stood for the Incarnation. As soon as the unicorn saw her, it lay its head on her lap and fell asleep. This became a basic emblematic tag that underlies medieval notions of the unicorn, justifying its appearance in every form of religious art. With the rise of humanism, the unicorn also acquired positive secular meanings, including chaste love and faithful marriage. Now, the merchant Marco Polo described the unicorn as tameable only by maidens. Scarcely smaller than elephants, they have the hair of a buffalo and feet like elephants. They have a single large black horn in the middle of the forehead. They have a head like a wild boar's. They spend their time by preference swallowing mud and slime. They are ugly brutes to look at. They are not at all such as we describe them when we relate that they let themselves be captured by virgins, but clean contrary to our notions. It is pretty clear that Marco Polo was describing the rhinoceros. Now, the famous late Gothic series of 7 tapestry hangings, The Hunt of the Unicorn, combined both secular and religious themes. In the series, richly dressed noblemen, accompanied by hunchmen and hounds, pursue a unicorn against several backgrounds or buildings and gardens. They bring the animal to the bay with the help of a maiden, who traps it with her charms, appear to kill it and bring it back to the castle. The last and most famous panel, the unicorn in captivity, the unicorn is sown bloody, but now alive and happy, chained to a tree surrounded by a fence in a field of flowers. Scholars continue to hunt the meaning of the resurrected unicorn. A set of 6 tapestries called the Dame à la Licorne, the Lady of the Unicorn, at the Musée des Colonies Paris, woven in the southern Netherlands about the same time as the unicorn in captivity, pictures the 5 senses, the gateways to temptation, and finally love, with unicorns in each hanging. Now we will move to heraldry. The unicorn has been used as a heraldic motive, appearing in the national arms and coins of Scotland. The royal throne of Denmark was made of unicorn horns, which were actually narwhal tusks. Well, that's what people claim. Sir, maybe some of them could have been narwhal tusks, but also some of them could have been unicorns. There is a possibility these things actually existed. I mean, throughout history, we have pictures of these animals, and they've been in several ancient things. I mean, sure, some of them could have stemmed off of one or another, but several different sightings means something has to have been there for things to have existed. Now, in heraldry, a unicorn is depicted as a horse with a goat's cloven hooves and beard, a lion's tail, and a slender spiral horn on its head. Whether because it's an emblem of the Incarnation or of the fearsome animal passions of raw nature, the unicorn was not widely used in early heraldry. It only became popular around the 15th century, usually colored, an indication as its nature has been tempered. Scotland and the United Kingdom use the unicorn in heraldry. 2 unicorns support the Scottish arms, and a lion and unicorn support the United Kingdom arms. The arms of the society in London has 2 unicorn supporters. Now we're going to talk about the alicorn, which is the horn itself. People used to believe that a unicorn horn could neutralize poisons, among other things. Some physicians in older times created these alicorn remedies against ailments by making cups from the horn and having their patients drink from them. People who feared poisoning sometimes drank from goblets made of the unicorn horn. This one doctor pretty much summed up the belief in the 16th century when he said, "The horn is useful and beneficial against epilepsy, potential fever, rabies, proliferation and infection of other animals and vermin, and against worms within the body from which children faint." Rarer still than the unicorn's horn is a mystic ruby called a carbuncle, which is said to be found at the horn's base. Some have said that the carbuncle is the source of a unicorn's magical powers. Others that it is a concentrated essence of the horn. Now we shall be talking about what I was talking about earlier, the place that was named after unicorn. Now, I'm just going to say unicorn for all these words that mean unicorn in Germany, but it looks like the actual name is Einhorn or Ianhorn, something like that. Now, there's a place in Germany that's long been considered a haunt of the unicorn. It's just in the Harz mountain region of central Germany. In fact, there's a cave in this area which to this day is called the Unicorn Hole. It acquired its name from a story which took place in the days when Germany was covered with dark unmapped forests which were ruled by old gods. In this forest, an old wise woman lived in a cave near Scotchfeld. People came to her from all over the Harz region for healing advice. This angered the Christians in the area, and they denounced her as a witch. The mercenaries used their influence with the Frankish king, whom they had converted, to send soldiers and a monk to arrest her. As the soldiers were making their way up the steep hill to her cave, the old woman came out and looked down upon them with total disdain and lack of fear. At first the soldiers hesitated, but realizing she was only one old woman, they continued climbing up the cave. Then a pale unicorn stepped out of the forest, its horns shining against the gloom cast by the trees. It went up to the woman, knelt before her. She got on its back and rode away. The monk and soldiers ran after her, but soon fell behind because of their heavy armor and weapons. The monk was finally able to catch up with the woman, but as he tried to grab her, she raised her arms and made a sign in the air, and the monk disappeared. By the time the soldiers reached the spot, all they found was a hole in the ground, with the monk lying shattered and lifeless at the bottom. The soldiers buried the monk and named the cave Unicorn Hole, a name by which has been known by ever since. Now, that is the myth I was talking about, and as you heard, it talks about an old lady who lived in the mountains, helped people and all this, angered the Christians, and then she ran away. Apparently it was on a unicorn's back, and she used magic to put the monk in the ground in a deep hole. What I think is maybe it was unicorn's power that she just somehow accessed to. Now, with all these myths and legends and sightings and paintings, that's what I'm using to clarify that unicorn exists. And yeah, so tell me what you think, and also remember to like and subscribe.